Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and you are an important part of our EWTN family. And we're so happy that you have welcomed us into your home. Now, we want to hear from you, so send us an email with a question or a comment to jimandjoy@ewtn.com, and mostly Jim will answer that question or comment. And so today we have a great guest.
We do.
I'm excited about our guest. His name is John Carmichael, and he's the author of a great book called Drunks and Monks. Now, the first time we saw John, he was on the journey home with Marcus Grodi. And we were watching John, and at the end of the show, I said to Jim, I want that book, and I ordered a couple of copies of it and passed it around to some friends who I know have some family members and some things, and I thought they would benefit greatly from the book. And then I said, I want to get John on our show. And so we worked with all the powers that be to make that happen.
That's it. So he's here. And when we saw him on Journey Home and then the reading of the book, there's just something so genuine about him and about his story. And that he's able to tell the story, which is great. Because so many of us have stories, and it's all about conversion, about God's grace and mercy in his life, his saying yes to it, or possibly no at times. But not everybody can articulate it, and so he does that. And it's St. Augustine-like, St. Augustine-like, and St. Francis-like, although their stories are different to some degree, but it's that story of how God gets a hold of us. It's a story about the human person, the wonder of the human person, the giftedness of the human person, and John's a very gifted guy. But it's also about the fall of a person and the sinfulness of a person, the rebelliousness of a person. I don't want to tell this whole story. But so bright and so ignorant, so raised in the church, yet not getting it, yet it's still getting on you as time goes on. So it's his story and about his own upbringing, about his family, Catholic family, about his mom who was addicted to alcohol and later came out of that and was sober. And so it's a great story of the human person. And I think you're going to be able to connect a lot of dots in your own life, for family members you know and love that might be away from the church. And it's a great message of hope about how the Holy Spirit can truly reach us and how the church is used to reach people. So we'll be right back. Plenty more to come. It's going to be a show of hope. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and today we bring to you Mr. John Carmichael, who's the author of a great book I encourage you to get and read called Drunks and Monks. It's kind of crazy title.
So many titles like that.
Yeah, but it was like, what? But it was intriguing and absolutely beautiful reversion story of a man who was captured by God and brought back to life. So we want to hear your beautiful story. And so, John, tell our family a little bit about what it was like for you being Catholic, growing up in the 70s and 80s, and what was happening to John.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here. I was definitely a big fixture in that 70s church as an altar server, and I played the clarinet in church. You haven't lived till you've heard a 10-year-old play Be Not Afraid on the clarinet.
There's mercy in the church, isn't there?
Yes. So I was fully Catholic as I understood it. I went to the school, I did all of the things. I don't think that I was getting it at all, as you said in your intro. I just felt really though I was sort of going through the motions. I was introduced, I went through the sacraments, and I didn't really understand them very well. I felt that I was getting fragments of the faith without really understanding the depth of it, and I doubted whether it was relevant in our time, you know, with jet airplanes flying by, and here we are doing the Passata with, you know, outside the church and reenacting these things from the first century. And I think I questioned whether this was just an old story that was kind of running out of gas, and we were sort of propping it up with the last the last best that we could in the midst of this technological revolution. Jesus, the person of Jesus, Mary, seemed very, very far from the reality of life in the 70s and 80s around Redondo Beach. So I didn't think too much of it. I just thought I happened to be a Catholic, and it was just kind of an external thing. I was assigned this religion. If I was somewhere else, I would have been some other religion, and we just go about our business. I was being formed, but not necessarily as a Catholic. I was being formed by Madison Avenue. I was being formed by sitcoms. I was being formed by all kinds of really dark influences that I didn't understand how dark they were because I had no sense of history. So all of these forces are acting on all of us all the time. And I pretty much just wanted a nice American life if I could get one. And I will, because the book tells the story. If people are interested in the nitty-gritty of it, they can read the book. But I'll mention something that's not in the book. When I was about 20, having grown up that way, I was in the Riviera Village, which is a part of Redondo Beach that is really, it's a nice little spot. And I had kind of a friend there who's a little older than me, named Rafi. And I was telling him I was in college, and I said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and all these worldly things. It's a very worldly time at 20 years old. And he suddenly changed his temperament. He suddenly got very angry with me. He went into the kitchen. His father owned this restaurant, and he came out with St. John of the Cross, Dark Night of the Soul. And he said, this is what you're supposed to be doing with your life. He gave it to me very angrily. And I didn't know, what is this? And I knew it was Catholic, but I'd never really heard of St. John of the Cross. This would be a great moment if I could say the book changed my life, but I will tell you, I read it and I had no understanding of what he was talking about. That there was some kind of a darkness of the senses and a darkness of the spirit, and that there was, I had no context. I had nothing. I'd never heard of it in my Catholic.
Except you were living it.
I was about to.
But I mean, the darkness,
right?
Not seeing, lack of awareness, blind, deaf, dumb, and dead until you're enlivened. I mean, and then you get enlivened.
Sure. Well, and then St. John of the Cross is really speaking to people who've already crossed a certain threshold and are now going to be taking this Catholic spiritual path. And these two darknesses would come. When I did read it, I remember thinking to myself, whatever this is, I don't want any part of this. I don't want to go into a place of some kind of crucifixion of the senses, and then yet a worse or deeper sense of maybe complete blackness after a period of sweetness. Whatever this is, it sounds like something from a long time ago, and it doesn't mean anything now in the modern day. I never gave him the book back, though. So, Rafi, if you're watching, I still have it. I don't know where you are, but I finally read it again at age 38 and 40, and then it made sense because I had been through the first part of that process, which seems to be, in some cases, when God wants a soul, he will begin by just simply crushing it, and because it'll have to be rebuilt somehow entirely. And so that's what happened to me, was that after coming out of that Catholic upbringing, which involved alcoholism in the home, my mom was an alcoholic, and people who know what that is know how it affects the entire family. It was just my father and my mother and me. And we took a picture. It would have been great if I could have found it, but it was a picture after my confirmation in front of a statue of the Holy Family in 8th grade. I was in 8th grade. And my mom was there, my dad was there, and I was there, and behind us was the Holy Family. And what was about to happen in our lives was my mom was about to succumb to her alcoholism to a point where she would almost die. And I would witness that and go through it, and she would somehow become sober. If you could look at that picture, you would think, they're raising a nice young Catholic boy. This is his confirmation. I can't remember which bishop it was. I can't remember if he slapped me either, if they were still doing the slapping. If he
probably should have been slapped.
He should have slapped me.
I could tell.
So And for those who may not know, that was a
Right.
tradition to
Yes.
kind of, because we're a militant church.
It's good.
And you know, if there's a bishop in town that wants to slap me now, appreciate it. So anyhow, we were about to go through a very personal, incredibly deep tragedy, which almost ended in my mother's death. And but we emerged from it. We all lived through it, and I started to do very well in school and in life after she got sober, because I had a little bit of therapy and secular type stuff, but it worked in a temporal way. So I got better grades. I started to become more outgoing. Became an athlete. I did all kinds of things that made me.
This is Catholic high school.
Yeah, Catholic high school, and then continuing on through college.
So you were achieving
Yes.
intellectually, academically, sports.
Yes, I was a runner, so that was a good sport for a
Right.
kind of a loner,
Right.
kind of a guy
Solo
who
act.
was alone inside.
Yes, yes,
Is that old film Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner? Great title.
yes.
And so these things lifted me up in a temporal way,
Right.
but I just wasn't connecting with the Eucharist, with confession, with I didn't pray the Rosary. I had an Irish grandmother that lived with us growing up, and she was a fervent prayer of the Rosary, but she didn't really bring me into it. I didn't understand it. And so then I go off into a secular life at age 20, and I do pretty well by society's terms. I became, you know, a lawyer, an intellectual property attorney in LA. I did entertainment law. I got married to a woman I met in college, and I don't like to talk about that because this book involves some living people. I tried to be
Right.
circumspect. This is about what happened to me, really in my soul,
Right.
which was that I had just that emptiness that would not abate. With the next successive achievement didn't abate it, and I started to panic a little bit because I knew that I was missing something,
Yeah.
missing something huge. You know, I went to a Catholic law school, and they have the crucifix in the classrooms, but it's over on the side. And we get all the Jewish holidays off there.
Yes.
So it was kind of the church as an institution there for me to use in a practical way when I needed it. It had systems and organizations and buildings and things to go to.
Right.
But you know, there's a little chapel on that campus which I never went into. It might have helped. So
I think what you're sharing is so real for so many people.
It is.
They have the institution of the church and lacking the encounter of Jesus.
Yes.
Lacking being sacramentalized, right? Being baptized, being confirmed, but never really encountering what those sacraments did to your soul. Although they did do something to your soul,
Yes.
which is permanent.
And you're still using the church, and it's benefiting. It's so nice that the graces are there, intellectually or physically, or what you're learning. You know, those are still operative, but there's something more, something deeper.
the church doesn't hustle you.
Yes.
It's not out with the pamphlets. Maybe she should be. She's there. And that gravitational pull that Chesterton refers to, once a man stops or a person stops pulling against it, they'll start to feel this pull toward it. I don't know that I was against the church. I just simply didn't believe in kind of the first principles of it. So what happened was then that life, that kind of purely secular life,
Blows up.
yeah, just spins apart.
Right.
Divorce, my mother ended up getting multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer. And these things happened more or less like in a month. And I quit my job at the firm. I was making 6 figures, and I was about to lose pretty much everything that I had worked for. And I picked up a drink for the first time in a hotel in Beverly Hills. The hotels would get much worse as I continued drinking, but I was in a very nice hotel, and I looked at the mini bar and I thought, you know what, darn it. I am 34, 5 years old. I tried so hard. I'm not happy. Maybe I need to do something different. I mean, other people seem to they're into hedonism. whatever. I had discipline, but it wasn't rooted in, it wasn't Christian discipline. It wasn't infused with the grace of God. It was very just a kind of a scraping, hard, dry discipline. And I took that first drink, and unfortunately, I have the same condition my mother has, and it took a hold of me immediately. There was no, but I didn't see it, of course, because that's part of the condition, is that I thought that I had found the solution to my problems because I felt so much better temporarily. There's a moment when a person jumps off a bridge where they feel like they're flying. And then gravity, you start picking up speed, and at some point you realize this is I'm in some terrible trouble. And this is the story of every alcoholic, more or less, which is not why I wrote the book. There's a lot of good alcoholic addiction memoirs. The shocking thing was when I was kind of at my lowest point, I ended up at Mass. It was shortly after Pope Emeritus Benedict's Summorum Pontificum. It's just something about what he was talking about. I was curious about the old rite, but the timing was perfect, and it was perfect for me. And as Chesterton, again, I'll mention, he says the church is like a house with 100 gates, and no two people enter exactly at the same angle. So this was my angle. This was my door, which was the old rite down at the Mission San Juan Capistrano in San Juan Capistrano. The swallows still come back, by the way, but they don't necessarily. They have a lot of other options now. Apparently, they're not Catholic. They're content with Kentucky Fried Chicken Eves, but they do come back. And anyway, I found a beauty in that chapel and in that Mass that I had never before experienced anywhere. And I was invited to join the choir by an older woman who said, "We need a man. Any man will do." And I had a little bit of musical background, so I was in this choir and suddenly learning the old prayers, singing the old rite, and having to puzzle over every word. I had taken Latin, so I had enough kind of familiarity with it. But it caused me to think through the entire liturgy very carefully. And also there were certain prayers that I had never heard before, like the Anima Christi, which we had a setting done in music by an FSSP priest who sang with us. And I was 2 feet off the floor up there, but somehow living between heaven and earth in that chapel, but not understanding the depth of my sort of obligations in the faith, that I would need to make a general confession. I didn't really know what that was. And these people who were true believers and understood the depth of it, they said, you need to make a confession.
John, we're going to have to pause and come back on Friday to get the good news in, because you really need conversion. And you get it. You get it.
Thank you.
John Carmichael, author of Drunks and Monks. We'll be right back. Plenty more to come. Please don't go away.
Welcome back. As you know, we always like to check in with beautiful Catherine Hadro, who is the host of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, for the latest news in the fight for life. Now, Catherine, I hear this week you plan to share a personal story about a pro-life leader.
Hi, Jim and Joy. Yes, the president of Americans United for Life, Catherine Glenn Foster, welcomed us into her home and opened up about her journey with the abortion issue, from her own post-abortive story to now leading one of the top pro-life legal teams in the country. We really want our viewers to get to know the personal stories behind top pro-life leaders today, and Catherine Glenn Foster's is a moving one and a reminder that the pro-life movement is on the side of love and healing. Also in this week's show, you know we're continuing to track and monitor pro-life policy. It's so important we stay on top of what is happening and stay involved, and we'll equip you to do just that when when you follow our call to action. If you go to prolifeweekly.com, you will find our latest call to action. It's a way for you to get involved in the pro-life movement this week, and it's a way for you to make a difference. You can catch all of this and more on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern and again on Sunday at 10 a.m. I hope to see you all there, but for now, back to you at home.
Catherine, thank you so much. Always keeping the sanctity and dignity of the human person right at the front. Raymond Nader is here with us now, Executive Director of NORSAT TV. The website is norsat.tv, norsat.tv. Raymond, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And you're not new to EWTN. We were speaking back in the green parlor back there, and you said that you had met Mother some years back.
Yeah.
So you've been a friend of the network for some time. And I understand that you're with NORSAT, and this is based out of Lebanon.
Exactly.
And so you're the only media kind of outlet there throughout the Middle East sharing the good news and the dignity of the human person in Arabic. Yeah. Why is this so important? What's the vision?
You know what, when you say Middle East, your mind goes directly to violence, wars, conflicts, troubles, tension, which is true. But among all this trouble and turmoil, there is a sound and a picture calling for peace and love and understanding. They can see the face of our Lord Jesus, Mother Mary, the saints, just to get them to know, because most of the Arabic-speaking peoples are non-Christians, you know. So we are addressing them. We are telling them about our true faith. Through this network, they can hear their own language. They can hear the call of love and peace in Arabic. So they are understanding us a bit more when we are speaking their own language.
Yes.
So it's a kind of call for the human values, which is lacking in the Middle East. And among all this turmoil where martyrdom is still going on, we have every day people falling for their faith, for witnessing for Christ. They are killed, slaughtered, and you can see them. So among all this, there is our TV channel, our network, calling to change the image of the Middle East, to call for understanding, for dialogue among people, because we have been always in confrontation between Jews, Christians, Muslims among themselves. It's a big turmoil. So our role there is to be real witnesses for the love of Jesus Christ.
It's a critical time to do it, as you said, just the violence, disrespect for the human person. But we hear again and again here in America, just the Christian population of whatever stripe going down in these various nations. Can you speak to that?
I think that Christians. We are all working in the same field with different tools. You have what you are on your fronts here, we are on different fronts there. But it's always darkness against light and light against darkness. So we are the witnesses for light. We are working to keep the light of Christ alive in the Middle East, and we are doing the same in the whole world. That's why I am here, to have a kind of partnership between our network and EWTN.
Beautiful. Are you encouraged, the people who are hearing, are you getting a response from them?
Yes, sure. We are receiving tens of thousands of letters from people all around the world, Arabic-speaking people, asking to send them Bibles to get to know more about our programs and about our faith.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. What hope is there? You know, I think of John Paul II speaking about Evangelium Vitae, the gospel of life. And he says, don't ever be afraid to share the gospel of life. And that's what you're doing, because people won't know those words, Evangelium Vitae, or the gospel of life. But that word of life, the dignity of the person, the image and likeness of God in every human being is already written upon their heart. And when you declare it, it will call it forth. It's already there. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Raymond, thank you so much for being with us. God bless your work there. So glad that we're in partnership together. Again, it's NORSAT TV, norsat.tv. It's Raymond Nader. Hope you've enjoyed the show today. Really shared a lot about conversion, of Mr. Carmichael's conversion, Mr. Nader, that's bringing the gospel forth, the dignity of the person all throughout the Middle East. You're an important part of this family, and all together we will build a new culture of life. Keep it on EWTN. Bye now.